Hello friends and welcome into yet another Cowboys Report. I'm Tom Downey. Follow me on Twitter at WhatGoingDowney. We're taking you through all the latest news and rumors around the Cowboys free agency pursuits and potential trades as well. We'll start off with a player the Cowboys have tendered. That is David Irving. Cowboys gave him a second-round pick, but the question is, will he actually stay with Dallas? Well, it's 3 stars on this one. It does seem pretty likely. All the indications from David Irving's agent is that Irving plans to stay with Dallas. Now, he was hit with the second-round tender, and Irving has signed a 1-year lease to stay in Dallas in terms of where he's living. Irving, in the end, wants to get a massive contract, and the easiest way for him to do that, or at least the most likely way, is to play out this year on the second-round tender, play all 16 games, and put up great production like he did in limited time this year. If that happens, David Irving will command a massive market, and it could approach some of the highest-paid defensive tackles in the NFL, and he is willing to wait for that. And if he does that, I think you'll see a scenario where David Irving gets a big, fat contract, and that's what he wants in the end. Once again, folks, I'm Tom Downey. Follow me on Twitter at WhatGoingDowney for more Cowboys coverage. You'll see the stars for each of these rumors that we discuss. Here's what they mean. 0 stars is the number of fights Odell Beckham won against the net. 1 star means what we're talking about is a small shred of truth. It could happen, but don't get your hopes up. 2 stars means the people are talking. 3 stars means that it's pretty likely. It's not quite a done deal, but it should happen. And 4 stars means that, yeah, Dez caught it because he caught that pass against the Packers, and it's a fact. Next up on our rumor and news roundup, did the Cowboys restructure Travis Frederick's deal? 4 stars on this one. It was perhaps the most expected move in all of the Cowboys offseason moves. It's not quite signed yet, but the two sides, the Cowboys and Frederick, have agreed to a restructure. It'll free up about $7.5 million in cap space. Now, there was some discussion on Twitter about, why doesn't Dez Bryant do this? Here's the thing. A restructuring is not the same as a pay cut. A restructure allows the Cowboys to play around with the cap space situation. It doesn't change the amount that Travis Frederick gets. It just puts $7.5 million or so in the base salary and pushes it off as a signing bonus in future years. It's not going to wildly outdo or fluctuate Frederick's contract, and does not change how much he gets, but it does give the Cowboys more cap space. Next up, the Cowboys lost Anthony Hitchens, but the Chiefs actually try to trade for him. 4 stars on this one as well. Chiefs GM Brett Veach was very open about this at a press conference today, and he said that, yeah, KC tried to trade for Hitchens back before last season. Veach, the first call we made as a new staff was to Dallas. Cowboys said that they were not going to move Hitchens, and really shouldn't be a surprise. They had Sean Lee, Hitchens, and a giant question mark on Jalen Smith and no real depth behind him. Instead, the Cowboys have a year of Hitchens. They'll get a comp pick, probably at least a 4th-round selection for Hitchens now that he signed a $9 million deal with the Chiefs. That was a price that the Cowboys were not going to pay. 3 rumors down, 3 to go. Let's get to some potential moves here that we know Cowboys Nation is abuzz with. Is there any interest in Tyrann Mathieu? And unfortunately, Cowboys fans, this does not seem to be the case. So 3 stars here that there's no real interest in Mathieu. Here's what's going on when it comes to Tyrann Mathieu and the Dallas Cowboys. Pretty much every team has some level of interest, but for the Cowboys, a couple of reasons it doesn't make a ton of sense. Mike Fisher has said that there's some scheme and positional fit issues with Mathieu. There's also a lengthy injury history. And that's partially why the Cardinals went out and said, you know what, we're going to cut Mathieu. It's not going to save us a ton of money, but we don't value the safety spot as much anymore. He's been made up in the past, and that is a real concern. Yes, he's only 25 years old. Here's the thing with Mathieu, though. He's been frequently banged up, and I think if you sign him, or whomever signs him, you're not going to get a ton of 16-game seasons, even if it's a 5-year deal. With that said, I get why everyone wants Mathieu. I would love to sign him, but for the Cowboys fans hoping that they can get somebody like Tyrann Mathieu, don't get your hopes up. With that said, there are some other safeties here that could be potential interest and landing spots here for the Dallas Cowboys that we'll discuss later on in the show. Hint, hint, that's someone like Earl Thomas. We're going to talk about Ndamukong Suh here in just a second, folks. But first, we're going to have a word from our sponsor, The Guild. All right, folks, what exactly is going on with Ndamukong Suh? There was the report last night that the Cowboys had interest. Then it was all of a sudden, no, they don't have interest. Then it was they have interest at the right price. So in terms of signing him, don't get your hopes up. We're giving this one just the 1 star here. Ndamukong Suh is a great defensive tackle. He'd be a great fit for the Dallas Cowboys. He'd be a big boost for that defense. And so at that point, yes, they do have interest in Suh, but ATRP, at the right price. And here's the issue with Ndamukong Suh and the Dallas Cowboys. It's highly unlikely that Suh drops to the Cowboys' price range. Yeah, he didn't necessarily put up the biggest and best numbers for the Dolphins after he signed that massive contract, but we know he's still a very talented player and a great one on that end. But if you're the Cowboys, if you're going to sign Ndamukong Suh, you're looking at something along the range of 16, 17 at the absolute lowest amount, $15 million per year. And if you do sign Suh, you can kiss David Irving goodbye. You're not going to be able to afford Irving, Suh, and DeMarcus Lawrence. So, yeah, there's some interest in Ndamukong Suh, but it's going to be a little bit too expensive. I think it's out of the Cowboys' price range, which is why I want to know from you guys. Are you willing to pay Suh $16 million a year? And this is an issue overall for the Cowboys. If you sign a big-name player like Suh or Mathieu, you're going to have to go cheaper at other spots. You're going to have to say goodbye to some players either this year or in future years. Maybe you don't bring back David Irving. Maybe you do end up cutting Dez Bryant, which the Cowboys almost did to go sign a guy like Sammy Watkins. I am not willing to pay Suh $16 million a year, and that's why I don't think you're going to see the Cowboys sign Suh, because they're not willing to pay that price either. But while the Cowboys won't get Ndamukong Suh, and they probably won't get Tyrann Mathieu, there is one player that they have had trade talks for, and it's everyone's favorite target, Earl Thomas. Could the Cowboys actually trade for the Seahawks star safety who has said he wants to play for Dallas? 2 stars on this one. It is firmly in that rumor category, but it is very much a discussion point. Dallas and Seattle have had trade talks. So for everyone who wants Cowboys to do something, they're trying here to do something with Earl Thomas. The Seahawks, though, and this is why a deal has not been completed yet, the Seahawks want a first-round pick for Earl Thomas. As far as I'm concerned, that is too much. I love Earl Thomas, but in reality, you're paying twice for a player of Thomas's ability. A, you're giving up a high draft pick. Even if it's not a first-round pick, it's probably a second-round pick. And in addition to that draft pick, Earl Thomas wants to get paid. He is not one of the highest paid top 5 safeties in the NFL right now. He's actually 6th. Earl Thomas, in reality, is set to get a massive new deal once he hits free agency next offseason. And if that's the case, you trade a first-round pick and you give a guy, let's just call it $12, $13 million. That's double dipping at one spot. You can't spend a pick and you got to spend a lot of money there. So with Seattle wanting a first-round pick, that's a deal breaker for the Dallas Cowboys. Now, maybe you can talk Seattle down, and of course Seattle's going to start by asking for a first-round pick. Maybe you can talk them down into saying, hey, can we get a second-round pick? We'll throw in a slightly used Orlando Scandrick as well, which, by the way, was why the Cowboys have not cut Scandrick. They're trying to trade him. Here's what you're looking at for a contract extension for Earl Thomas if and when you trade for him. He's going to want to get paid more than Eric Berry. There is some injury history with Earl Thomas, but when he's on the field, he is easily one of the 5 best safeties in the NFL, and there's real argument that he's actually the best one. So you're looking at $13 million a year for Earl Thomas, if not 13.0001. So I want to know from you guys, factoring in everything we've discussed today, which safety would you rather have? Would you rather trade at least a second-round pick and a big contract for Earl Thomas? Would you throw money at Tyrann Mathieu? Would you throw less money at a guy like Kenny Vaccaro? Or would you sacrifice a second-round pick and trade up for Derwin James? If you can give up a second-round pick, I'm throwing up my heart. Give me Earl Thomas. That's the guy. That's my top target. If I can't get Earl, I'm looking at a guy like Kenny Vaccaro, who's going to be a lot cheaper and I think still fits the role with the Dallas Cowboys. That is it for today's Cowboys Report. Don't worry, folks. If we get more news, we'll cut in here and have another show for you guys. But until then, follow me on Twitter at WhatGoingDowney, and I'll see you next time.